It's the end of May, and it's the May catch up. Again, the monthly video that I make every single month to catch up everything that I watch in that particular month and categorize them in the few groups, and you know the drill. But before I start this video, I just want to say I just got this huge boost on my channel for some fucking reason, and I got a shit ton of comments on the climax video, a lot of hate comments as well, and that's where like, oh yeah, I made it, boys. And yeah, the climax video is just freaking got a boost for some reason. It's now just sitting at 11k views or some shit like that. And then after that, I made a Ruben Brand video, which also got a ton of views and really good comments as well. It's like an in review video. It's not a review video, but it's in review. It's like looking at Ruben Brand and picking up stuff that you might not have seen in the first time viewing it. And that video, I spent a lot of time into that, and it got a ton of views, and yeah, that's cool. And after that, I did an Aurora Axis video, which I consider the most personal video I ever made. It's 15 minutes long, talking about Aurora, and that video did so good. It's far better than I ever expected. I actually went into that video expecting to get maybe under 10 views because I don't expect anyone to watch it, and then it turns out like 600 people clicked on it, and I got so many comments, so many lovely comments, and that's just freaking awesome. This month has been wild. I get hate comments, which is fantastic, which I always consider like, oh, that's my first hate comment. I finally made it to YouTube, boys, and also I got some of the best comments I've ever gotten in May. So thank you all. If you're new here, thank you all for being here. And so this video, the premise of this video is to look back at everything that I watched in that month and then categorize and maybe put it under your radar so that you can go check it out if you're interested. And yeah, I put them in the 4 groups for a list. So let's just jump into it. First one, it used to be play it list, but I thought the name is a little bit confusing, so I changed it to stock it, because I think that's probably the best way to put it, is that these are the films I think probably you should watch all films, but stock it are the films that you should just maybe put it away and then maybe pick it up when you don't really have anything else to watch, or you just want to somehow watch these movies. Just stock it, just put it away, but eventually you still watch it, but not right away. The first one being The Final Wish. I was kind of excited to watch this, but I'm gonna be honest, I watched this movie just because Lin Shaye was in it, and I thought, okay, I'll go check it out. And this movie is about this guy whose father just passed, and he goes back to his home, and then finds this urn that has some sort of power, and it's basically the what is it, Wish Upon, a film that came out 2 years ago or something. That horror movie is basically that, except this film looks better. They try to make this movie look as good as possible with the low budget that they have. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, the best thing about this film is still Lin Shaye and her performance. She really gave it all. There are a lot of scenes where it really requires some range from her, and she absolutely delivered. I think the first 10 to 20 minutes of the film, it actually looks pretty promising. It sets up some potential that the film might go, some of the direction this film might go. But as the story progresses, you quickly realize this entire film, the biggest problem I have with it is that the entire film is a setup. There's really nothing much to it, and it's supposed to be a horror film, but nothing really scary happens, which can be a major bore. This entire film is just a setup. You can see it as a punchline film. It's just a 90-minute punchline, a 90-minute setup with it's just like a single punchline at the end. The relationships in the film also they don't really work that well most of the time. The best thing really the performances, and they really did their best trying to make this movie look as good as possible, and I can really appreciate that. The Final Wish was just that. Next one being Tolkien. I watched this because I really don't have anything else to watch, so I watched Tolkien. It's a story about Tolkien. I don't even know who he is. It's like he's a creator of Lord of the Rings franchise or whatever. Like, I think he created Hobbit or some shit like that. I don't really care, but it's just a story about this guy coming up. It's a coming of age film almost. And I put it here not because I don't have any connection to the guy or his stories. It's just the film itself, the script, and I think it really ran out of steam before the midpoint on, and after that, it just kind of felt bland and flat after that. There's really nothing much really happening on screen, and somehow the filmmakers are trying to make us care for the character. And this is another film where a 30-year-old guy trying to play a 18-year-old dude, which is definitely a stretch. Lily Collins, she's fantastic. I think the performances are all fine. Lily Collins really stood out. I think after To the Bone and the other film that she made, which is Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, after these films, as I see her performance, she's definitely a good actress, I would say that. But I feel like Tolkien has this problem of figuring out the tone. I don't think this film quite knows what it wants to be just yet, because the tone is all over the place. They're trying to hit a lot of things at the same time. It gets kind of tangled a bit. Shit just kind of tied together in a really weird way. And I think if you really want to know Tolkien's story and you care about his stuff, go ahead. You would definitely enjoy this movie on that level. But from a guy who really don't give a shit about Tolkien, the film was okay. It just it's not that. I would probably never watch it again. The last one on the stalker list is The Hustle. This film, they marketed it pretty well, I would say. After the first night, the opening night, the review just fucking bonkers. Everyone was shitting on it. So I watched it because Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson is in it. That's really much it. And I enjoy the film, right? I enjoy the film. I think the jokes, you either take it or leave it. Most of the jokes are not bad. They're not bad. But at the same time, there are so many scenes dedicated to make a joke, and they forget to tell a cohesive story. And this is the biggest problem with The Hustle. The story is ass. The story is just terrible. There's really no story to be told here, and the story world that they're creating with the characters and the world that they're interacting is also really, really unbelievable. It's really not that convincing, but at the end of the day, I can see that these two people, Anne Hathaway and Rebel, they are having a fun time shooting this movie, and the filmmakers behind it as well. They're really having fun doing this project, and I think that's the best thing you can get out of it. I don't really want to shit on it too much because there's really nothing much to shit on. Walking into this movie, if you have like this movie's gonna be with an expectation of The Hustle is gonna be in an Oscar-winning movie, then you're probably the dumbest person on earth. So, The Hustle, go in, enjoy some jokes. Really, if you really don't care about the story, you can enjoy it. Next list, we have the streamer list. These are the films that I think you should wait for it. You should stream at home if it's on Netflix, if it eventually went to Blu-ray, however you want. Wait for it to come out, and then you can stream it at your home. The comfort at your home on your couch. The first one being Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, the fucking long title of a film. Starring Zac Efron and Lily Collins again, and they are terrific in here. Zac Efron, such a good casting and such a good performance, probably his best. Lily Collins as well is also really good. Besides that, I think the film itself, as a person who didn't really know anything about Ted Bundy, and if you have watched the Ted Bundy tapes it's also on Netflix, then you probably have somewhat of an idea of who this person is, what his story might be, and whatnot. I didn't know anything about it while walking into this movie, and from that perspective, I think the film really did a good job at hiding his innocence, or if he's guilty or not. I would say for most of the time of the film, they really trying to hide the mystery of trying to bring you in, guessing if he did it or not. And I think they did a good job at that, keeping the mystery and keep us guessing. There's one nitpick that I can talk about this movie. I think it feels like a documentary. It feels like a stylized and dramatized documentary, whereas a lot of biopic that tackles the subject like this, for example, Zodiac, directed by David Fincher, that film looks like cinema. It feels like a cinema, and it was written like a cinema, directed like a cinema. But this film really feels like a documentary, but just with a new polished package. It feels like it's really stylized and dramatized for various purpose. And if you can like it or you don't like it is really not my taste. But at the end of the day, the film was okay. Go check it out. Next one being UglyDolls. I watched this one because I really don't have anything else to watch, so fuck it, I'll go watch it. I heard some people talking shit about it.
I thought the film was okay. It's definitely for kids. It's a musical. It's about this group of ugly dolls who's being outcasted from all this pretty dolls, and they're trying. It's an underdog story essentially, and I think the story world that they're building is definitely confusing because it doesn't make any sense, and they don't really explain it as well. So it kind of you don't know what's going on. But I guess, yeah, okay, I guess it just happens, I guess. And this movie is a musical, but I thought there's not one musical numbers or one musical sequence or dance sequence or song that really stood out. I can't remember a single song walking out of this movie, but I think the kids will enjoy it. Regarding to the aesthetic, I think the animation looks good for most of the time, but at the same time, these dolls really don't look like dolls. They just look like animated characters instead of dolls. Let's say, for example, Toy Story, they look like dolls. They look like toys that you will actually have in your home. Whereas in Ugly Dolls, they don't look at like anything that you would actually that would actually exist in real life. They just look like Incredibles. They just look like Finding Nemo's, and they look like animated characters. There's some good scenes in it. There's some good stuff in it. There's this one scene where the film cut to almost black and white, is really desaturated, and how they did it and how it fits with the context of the sequence is actually really funny. It's actually really well done, and also the last scene of the movie was also I thought that was pretty well done, really well executed, and it hit where they want it to hit, and that's the end goal of it. Ugly Dolls feels like a Toy Story 3 meet with Monsters Inc. It does feel like that. Next one being Aladdin. Oh my god, Aladdin. Everyone was talking shit about this one. Holy shit. And it went even before the film came out, the trailer dropped and everyone was shitting on Will Smith. I thought it was funny. I did a video goofing on it, but I really don't have anything much to say about Will Smith as Genie. He's actually probably my favorite part of the film. And before everyone watched this movie, everyone was just shit talking on Will Smith and blah 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 blah. I'm like, just watch the film and then come up with your own opinion, for fuck's sake. Naomi Scott is excellent as Jasmine in this film, and I thought the casting of Aladdin is a little bit miscasted. I feel it may be the casting or maybe the directing, or it might be the acting, but there's some process in it that made this Aladdin character, feel a little bit too clean, a little bit too cartoonish, a little bit too unlikable at a certain point, because he feels like he looks like a playboy at times. But with all these Disney live action remakes, I thought they're probably just setting up a new generation. I think that's the whole purpose of it. The Lion King, the Dumbo, and the Aladdin remake, live action remake. I think they're setting up a new generation so that they have, when the kids nowadays growing up, they have something in their head. And I think that's the point of it. But I think Aladdin live action, it does assume that you know what's going on in the original. I haven't watched the original since like when I was a kid. I don't remember almost like anything from the original. So watching Aladdin, I feel like it does assume that you know everything that you needed to know from the original. So it kind of takes off the story from that point on. Then it gets a little bit confusing, or the pacing can be dragged. For example, I think the first half of the movie, the pacing of it is really, really slow. The setup of the entire thing, the conflict is really sloppy, and sometimes it's boring. Every time Genie is on screen, that is when the film shines. That is when the movie it's entertaining with this over the top Genie and CGI and musical numbers. That's the best part of the movie. Also, the CGI of the film, sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't. So I would say Aladdin was not a bad movie. Everyone was giving it a hard time, but stream it, enjoy it at your home. I think you'll probably have a good time. It's not a bad movie. It feels good after you watch it. It feels kind of good. So yeah. Last one on the streamer list is Sharkwater Extinction. It's a documentary. It's a sequel to Sharkwater, which came out a few years ago. I never watched that movie. I didn't know this was a sequel until I did the research afterwards. I don't have a lot of things to say about the documentary. It's kind of tragic. If you have seen the Sharkwater documentary, it's like an add-on. It's like giving more backstory on what happened in that first one. The underwater scenes are beautiful. beautifully shot. The only issue I have with myself walking into this movie, not with the film but with myself, is that I think I expected this movie to be more like Food Inc. I expected this movie to have a story that is kind of really cut and dry, that is really just strung together, and then you can follow from top to bottom pretty easily, and it's packaged in a way that is really easy to follow, like Food Inc. But Sharkwater Extinction is not that, and that kind of took me off guard a little bit. I feel like Sharkwater Extinction documentary is kind of like Leaving Neverland, those kind of documentary where it's important to watch. It's not necessarily enjoyable for most of the time, but I think the information and the story that is being told it's important. So go check it out. It almost got to a must watch, but I just thought, nah, it's probably not there yet. Next list, we have go to the theater list. We have a big list this month. A lot of film came out this month that I thought, oh, it's a good theater experience, so I just put everything on here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 go to theater films. First one being Long Shot. Long Shot was good. It was funny. I thought the romance in the film was really well told, the love story, because you strip everything, you strip the comedy away if you don't like them, if you strip everything like Seth Rogen, if you don't like him, strip those away. I feel like it's still a love story that is really well told, and that's the core of the film. But I think what really stood out for me in Long Shot is actually the political side of things, because the plot of Long Shot is really political, and that kind of turned me off. But then seeing how the filmmakers and the actors and everyone involved, how they tackles the idea of politics, they actually handle it really, really well, better than a lot of films that are coming out these days that are about politics. Even though they're not realistic, it's really not realistic. I think they handle it pretty well. They can't really upset anyone because it's this world that they're creating. Somehow it's so unbelievable that makes you want to believe in it, and I think that's the magic of Long Shot. The jokes in it are probably, sometimes it can be a little bit distasteful for certain taste, but I thought it's okay. At the end of the day, the love story was well told. The character arcs in it are really, really clear, with really clear moral in these characters, and these characters are really easy and really just likable. It's a good story, well told. Go check it out. It's definitely worth the ticket price. Next one being Bolden. I don't think anyone watched this one. It didn't market good. The Bolden was not bad. It's about this guy who invented jazz. It's a true story. The editing is one of the best I've seen this year so far, and it's just really well thought out film. Every shot, every scene, how they transition and how they flow together are really, really well thought out. It does get to that territory where, oh, it's a little bit style over substance. It does go to that place at times, but I can really just appreciate how much thought they put behind it. The storyboarding and how the shots are composed are really interesting. The tone of the film are controlled excellently. You almost get everything you needed to know tone-wise in the film from the opening scene, and the opening scene was really powerful. The opening scene kind of embodies the entire film because it's literally the style of it. It's there, and then you can expect what to come in the next 90 minutes or so in that opening scene, which is really strong. The editing is terrific. The structure of the film and how the story is told require at least there are almost at any point in time of the film, there are at least maybe 3 sequences intercutting with each other in the most amazing way possible, which is really interesting. You can pause the film at any point. There are at least like 2 or 3 things happening at the same time, and I just thought they put so much thought in it. And definitely go watch it in the theater. I think these films, these little films, definitely deserve the ticket price and deserve our attention and your support. So definitely go check it out. Bolden, go watch it. It does get a little bit exposition-y at times. There are just scenes where characters just say stuff, and then it does drag out the pace a little bit, but you can look over that really easily. Next one being Pokemon Detective Pikachu. The film was first thing I put here, very exposition-y. They're just characters explaining everything to you like you're dumb pum, And there are a lot of scenes, really, there are a lot of scenes where characters just sit down. This is what happened to my mother. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to this corporation. Blah, 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 blah. There are a lot of that. The opening scene was really intriguing. It's really cute. The CGI, most of the time, they look pretty damn good. Most of the time, sometimes you can see it. They're having trouble blending the CGI with real life. But I think overall it looks good. But I think that's probably everything that I wanted to say. If you walk into this movie expecting a Pokemon movie, it's probably not. The film, it's really weird. It's not a Pokemon movie. It feels like a neo-noir with crime drama neo-noir and sci-fi and thriller and mystery crimes. They're all like cramming together. You walk into this movie expecting a movie that is like a crime drama, a mystery crime drama with Pokemons in it. It's really not a Pokemon movie where you expect Pokemon battles and whatnot. The story world that they're building is definitely interesting. They're probably going for that MCU where they're creating a cinematic universe with it. This is just a starting point. I do see the potential if they're trying to make a universe out of it. The biggest thing, the third act. The third act doesn't make any sense to me. I rethink a lot of times the third act. Nothing makes sense in the third act. Characters just teleport. Things just happen out of nowhere, and somehow you have to accept it. That's it. The film, yeah. The next one being The Kid Who Would Be King. This film came out in the beginning of the year, and maybe it was January. I was in Taiwan at the time. I didn't catch it. The Kid Who Would Be King. The title of the film turned me off. I don't want to watch it. The poster of the film turned me off. I don't want to watch it. It looks boring as hell. But it's a surprise for me. The film was actually pretty good. The pacing is excellent in this one. It's a 2-hour film, I think. Not a single second where I feel bored. There's always the story is always moving. The tone is also controlled really well. The visuals are great considering what they did with what they have. The visuals are great. The clapping thing, though, I don't really get it. The clapping thing is a little bit too dumb for me. That is probably just a little bit nitpick. The performances in this film, especially the kid can act. Sometimes the film gets a little bit exposition-y, and by the end of the film, it does feel a little bit anticlimactic, where it's just everything set up to this one point where it just, okay, that's the ending, and you don't really feel much. But I think at the end of the day, the Kid Who Would Be King exceed my expectation by miles, and I really didn't expect this movie to be any good. So definitely go check it out. I know it's not in theater anymore, but I just thought put it here to say this is worth the ticket price, and that's the whole point of it. Let's continue. The next one being Brightburn. Brightburn, there's a lot of hype around it. Brightburn is the perfect movie where they did the best they could with a low budget, and the film looks fantastic for what it is. And I thought the film was fun. Brightburn will go down as another weird kid movie of 2019. Again, it's only May. We're coming into June. There have been at least 3 weird kid movie this year. The film has a really, really small budget, but it looks really good actually. It has a way higher budget than it actually had. The best thing about it, the acting and the chemistry that comes within that, the mother, the actress who's playing the mother is terrific, is fantastic in this one. The acting is great. Also, the kid was also really good. The mother's chemistry with the father, they have a really good chemistry together. And this film really set up these characters that make you want to feel, that make you want to like these characters. So when shits are going down, you feel for these characters. This film did an excellent job at that. There are gore and violence in this film that are just, whoo, shit, boys. Really, really violent. There's a shit ton of blood when it needs to be. But at the same time, I think the trade-off that comes with that is that the first hour of the film, the pacing can be suffered from that. Because we're seeing this long, drawn-out scene of kills, of just people dying, without the story actually progressing for a long period of time. It definitely suffers in that first hour, but the last 30 minutes is actually it's really fun. And the premise of it is just, what if Superman is evil? What if Superman is a bad kid? That's it. And yeah, definitely go check it out. It came out the same week as Aladdin, and everyone was talking, don't watch Aladdin, go watch Brightburn or Booksmart, blah 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 blah. I agree. Go watch Brightburn. I'm not saying that you shouldn't watch Aladdin, but watch Brightburn first. Next one being To Dust. This movie also is another Bolden kind of situation where no one watched it. This movie, I believe less people watched it because I don't think it was in theater. It was extremely limited. I didn't see any streaming near me. To Dust is also caught me off guard on how funny it is when they're tackling a premise that is so dark, so tragic in a way. They did it in the most light-hearted way possible because the film, I think, is a passion project for the filmmaker, for the director, because the film is for his wife. And you can definitely see it with the plot and everything in the film. There are so many jokes in it I laughed out loud. They're so funny. The chemistry between the two lead characters are fantastic. The acting is also really, really good. The delivery of those lines, and I think it just worked. We have a main character that is super religious. We have an antagonist that is super scientific. They're a complete opposite, and when they come together, it sparks so much humor, so much fun to be had, and it just worked really well into Dust. But I would say this though, as funny as it is, the first 10 minutes of the film sets up a completely different movie. I think the first 10 minutes of the film, it feels really deep. It feels really heavy. It feels really dark. But as the story progresses, you quickly realize, oh, this film is actually a lot harder than it wants it to be. So I guess you just have fun with it. 90 minutes just flies by like nothing, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. The dialogue was written really well, and do support this movie. To Dust. I just want to get this movie out there. To Dust. Go watch this movie. When it comes to cinematography, I think the film sometimes can be a little bit too dimly lit. I'm not talking about they did this shit in post-production. I just feel like when they're shooting a scene, the lights are really dim to a point where you barely can see anything sometimes in the night scenes. But overall, the film was a fun time. The last one on the go to the theater list is Godzilla. I just watched this morning. I put it here. I feel like this one is a little bit confusing when it comes to categorizing which list should I put it on. It can be on the streamer list. It can be the go to theater list, because you can watch this movie on different levels. I feel like this movie is the loudest movie since Hellboy. At least this one isn't obnoxious. I feel like Hellboy was just way too loud for its own good, way too obnoxious for it. Godzilla, there are two levels to it. You can watch it, enjoy the action and the monsters, and that's it. And another level is that you're gonna go in critiquing everything and talking shit about it. Pick one. I walked into this movie, I don't expect anything. I walked into a Godzilla movie to see Godzilla. I just expect some monsters with these over the top scores and action sequences where they fight each other, and that's it. Guess what? That's exactly what I got in Godzilla, the King of Monsters, this movie. So from that level, the film was entertaining. It was satisfying on a visual standpoint. The visual effects looks pretty good. But from a story or a character standpoint, this film is nothing. This nothingness, because the characters are so boring. They're so boring. There's not a single character in this film that can stick in my head after I walked out of the theater. I don't give a shit about any of them. I feel like Kyle Chandler was he was probably miscast, and that is the biggest downside of it, right? The characters are so boring, and the story, quote unquote, story that they have is also really, really boring. But when you see those action, it just go. There's really nothing much to it with exposition in between, and I think it's your decision if you want to enjoy this movie or not. I enjoyed this movie because there's Godzilla in it. It's so over the top, and I watched it in IMAX. I had a fun time, so that's why it's on the theater list. Go watch it. Go enjoy yourself. The last list, we have the must watch. These are the films that are must watch, that are the best. I think you should definitely go check them out however you want. If you missed it in theater, go rent it, go stream it when it goes to Netflix or Amazon, whatever. Go watch these movies. First one being The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. It is on Netflix right now. What I can really, really appreciate, and probably my favorite thing about the film, is that it doesn't pull any punches. It has a way of beating these characters down to a point where you just want to get into the film and pick them up. That's why Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 works so well. It did so well at just beating Peter Parker down as a character that when he thrives, when he succeeds, you feel so much catharsis that you just want to cheer. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind has that moment. The first half, I think, is a little bit slow since it is setting up a lot of the conflicts of beating these characters down. The first half is a little bit slow, but the second half is so rewarding. I almost teared up, and that goes a lot to the performances in this film. Everyone in this one is excellent, and the directing is also really good. And I think when you put all of those stuffs together, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind was such an experience. I think most people will like it, at least. Next one being Stan and Ollie. This film also came out in the beginning of the year. I caught it, finally. Performances are great. That's it. It's like Stephen Coogan is excellent. The direction is excellent. The dialogue in this film is excellent. It has this way of showing the same thing over and over and over and over again, but somehow every time you see these scenes, you take something a little bit different out of it each time it happens. And I thought just that is good storytelling. That is good storytelling. It has a way of connecting all of these characters together in a web. It's not just about our main character Stan and Ollie. It's also about their wives and their drama and their hardship and their conflict with their husbands and how they deal with that. They do touch on those a lot. And however, I do wish that there's at least a complete arc to these wives' character, because they are actually really interesting. There are 4 characters in this film mainly that are really interesting. 2 of them are in the forefront, 2 of them are in the background, but the 2 of them in the background are so interesting. I want them to have more screen time, maybe stretch out the runtime a little bit more so that we can see more character arc and development with these characters. At the end of the day, it's a good story, well told. The emotions are super well earned, and this movie is definitely not a comedy. On Rotten Tomatoes it says it's a comedy. No, it's not a comedy. It's a drama that has comedic effects in it, but it's a really good drama. Go watch it, it's good. Next one being John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. I don't know why it's called that. Why not just John Wick Parabellum? But anyways, the Chapter 3 of John Wick franchise. John Wick is badass. As always, John Wick is, John Wick as a franchise is one of the most consistent franchises out there. Probably the best second to the Mission Impossible as an action franchise. Keanu Reeves is just great as John Wick. This John Wick character is designed for him. The entire plot of the character is for Keanu Reeves. But what else do I have to say about the film? The storytelling that the franchise is doing is fantastic. It's so interesting. They're doing a fourth one as well. The action sequences in this film are freaking awesome. Probably the best out of the entire trilogy. One thing that I don't like about it is that there's a decision at the end of the film that the characters made, but they just didn't go along with that decision, where a decision is so fucking hard-hitting. You expect these characters to go along with that, but after like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, nope, guess what? I didn't make that decision at all. Psych. And if I ought to compare this one to the previous 2, I thought when it comes to emotional standpoint, it's not as investing as those previous 2, but the action kind of make up for it. So definitely watch this one in theater. I think it's still in theater. Watch it. It's a ton of fun. If you liked the previous 2, you're gonna fucking enjoy this one as well. Last one on the must watch and last one of the video is Booksmart. There are a shit ton of hype around it. It came in 6th place in the box office the opening weekend, which is fucking tragic for me. And people, fucking Booksmart and Brightburn together on their opening weekend together combined still made less money than Avengers Endgame on their 5th weekend or 6th weekend by this point, which is it sucks. It sucks. I watched Booksmart twice. I watched it in the opening night, I believe, and then a few days later I went back and watched it again because it's so interesting. I would say this: the second time watching it got so much better. The flaws that I got out of it the first time watching it, the second time watching it, I just kind of overlooked them. Booksmart is a really good comedy and coming of age story with characters and actors in it that are so likable, and their chemistry within is just beautiful. The performance from our main two leads and their chemistry together is great. There's this one scene, there's one, the most emotional scene. I probably, if you watch it, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil anything, but that scene alone really just made the entire film. It's also, it's almost like in Lady Bird, where Lady Bird is asking how much money do you want me to give back to you, and when that scene happens, then you know, okay, this shit is real. There's one nitpick that I can say is that the creativity wasn't consistent. There's this one stop motion scene in the film, and there's also one dance sequence in the film that just came out of nowhere. I feel like they can really take those creative ideas and then stretch it for the entire movie. Maybe have more of that, because we only have two. At least I can count. And this movie is about maybe 100 minutes or so. They really stuffed a lot of shit in there, especially the second time I'm watching it, seeing how they set up these characters in just a blink of an eye in the first 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and how these characters kind of play a major role in the second half. It's a little bit jarring. They stuff so much in this 100 minutes. I wish they can stretch it. But yeah, I really do appreciate films like Booksmart that are coming out these days. Lady Bird is another one, Edge of 17, which is just great coming of age stories. Definitely go watch this. Support Booksmart in theater. Also watch Brightburn in theater as well. Support these small little films. And yeah, also another nitpick of Booksmart is just at the end of the film, it feels like the filmmakers feel so obligated to give some sort of finale with these characters and their stories and their relationships. They just kind of have to, okay, we just have to have this happen for a finale, where they really don't have to. It does get a little bit, it just came out of nowhere. Like, why? Why would you do that? Yeah, and that's it. That's the last movie, and that last movie that I'm talking about in this video. It's a pretty good month. It's actually a pretty good month. There's not a lot of, I don't think there's any films that oh shit, this is ass, this is terrible film that I watched in this month. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Tell me in the comments what you think of the list and what I missed in this month, so I can go back and watch it, and I'll wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here. If you're a new subscriber from that Aurora video and from that Climax video, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, that's it. And also, yeah, and Ruben Brand, if you're here from Ruben Brand video as well, thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you guys in the next month, the June catch up, which will come up at the end of June. Yep. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.